This is episode 331 of Jumblethink.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Jumblethink, where we interview dreamers, makers, innovators, and influencers all about their journey of turning dreams and ideas into reality. Along the way, we're going to share some tips on how you can turn your own dreams and ideas into reality too. Our guest on today's show is Darren Sager. More about Darren in a moment. Whether you're a new listener or a longtime fan, if you've never subscribed to Jumblethink, head on over to your favorite place to listen to podcasts, search for Jumblethink, and click subscribe. To make it even easier, all you have to do is head on over to jumblethink.com. You'll find links to Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Google Play, and more. Now let's join today's conversation.
Hi, this is Christina Everett, executive producer of podcasts at iHeartRadio. You're about to listen to an episode recorded live at PodMax. Enjoy the show.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Jumblethink. My name is Michael Woodward. I am your host. We have a really fun conversation lined up. Now, you probably noticed a second ago that our friends from iHeartRadio mentioned that today's show was recorded at PodMax. Now, PodMax is this incredible event where entrepreneurs and podcasters meet up. They get to share their story, and then I get to share their story with you. Today's conversation is with Darren Sager. We're going to talk about that in a moment, but PodMax has another event coming up, and it's a virtual event, May 22nd. All you have to do is head on over to podmax.co to learn more about that event. Super cool, and I hope you join me and other podcasters virtually and get your story told. Now, today's conversation is with Darren Sager. Now, in today's conversation, we're talking a lot about real estate, but we're looking at it from a different angle. You see, Darren is a part of eXp Realty, exprealty.com. What they're doing differently is they're taking that traditional real estate broker, your Century 21s, your Keller Williams and all those companies. And the company that he works with is a cloud-based realty brokerage, which is changing up the game, making it a little bit more accessible for realtors to get the support they need, but also to get really a fair deal at what they're doing. It's a fun conversation. I learned a lot in this, and I think you will too. So let's join the conversation we had with Darren Sager. We are here with Darren Sager. Welcome to PodMax, where we're recording live. And
yes, quite the event today, and we got the the main booth here. So this is pretty awesome.
Yeah. You're a Jersey guy.
I am I guess. You
live in Jersey.
I live in Jersey, so I guess, yes, I'm a Jersey guy. I was born in New York, though, so I always consider myself a native New Yorker.
Yeah. Did you like New York City or New York State?
New York State, yes.
Okay.
So yeah, never actually lived in one of the 5 boroughs, but was born in was it Suffern, New York?
Ah.
So, in fact, I was just up there because I had to go and get a copy of my birth certificate to get my my passport redone. So that was a fun experience.
Nice. Well, I'm excited to have you on. We haven't. At PodMax last time, we talked to a lot of people who were in the world of real estate.
Mm-hmm.
This time around, we haven't talked to as many, which is fine because we're not a real estate show. I think you're our one real estate guy today.
Oh yeah, I feel special.
Yeah, so super excited to have this conversation. We're going to talk about real estate. We're going to talk about investments. We're going to talk about cloud-based brokerage firms. We're going to talk about stuff I really don't know anything about, but we're going to try to learn. Hopefully
there you
today.
go. Well, they say your mind is like a parachute; it only works when it's open, right? So,
I want to hear a little bit about your backstory of how you ended up in the world of real estate, how you got into doing what you're doing.
Sure. What happened in my life was I put myself through university. So I wound up doing it later on in life versus most people. I was 27 when I graduated. Graduated from Boston College, got a degree in accounting and marketing. Deloitte went and recruited me, and when I went to Deloitte, I had a choice of pretty much any different practice group that they were specializing in. And I had known that more millionaires were created in the world of real estate versus any other aspect of background that they were serving. So I was like, well, I might as well choose real estate and try to get the most out of it.
Yeah.
So I was there. Vornado Realty Trust was my primary client, and I was there at a time when Michael Fascitelli had just come on board. And literally sat in a room as we decided to figure out numbers on the Merchandise Mart, which is the largest retail space in North America, and it was purchased by Vornado from the Kennedy family.
Wow.
So it was done in private, obviously, and it literally was their crown jewel. Wow. And literally from the get-go, in my first week of doing that, I was in awe about real estate investing. So it was pretty wild.
Crazy. I find it interesting. I've met very few people that work for Deloitte, and I know that people who see, like, we have one of their buildings in the town that I live in, and everyone's like, well, how do you say that? Is it Deloitte?
Yeah, most people don't know how to pronounce it, but yeah, at the time that I was there, it was Deloitte and Touche. Now it's just Deloitte.
Nice.
So, yeah, it's interesting. So from there, again, having that experience, I decided that, why can't I go and learn what I'm doing here and apply it to my own personal benefit? So, again, being older, I was, 27, had friends that were getting married and also buying homes. But I couldn't, Deloitte was only paying me $40,000 a year. I couldn't afford a single family home. So I said I had to go to the multifamily route. So I learned from what I was doing at Deloitte and applied it and bought my first small multifamily property.
So is it a space that you feel like you kind of just fell into, or is it a space that you had an affinity to and just really... because you go to college, you get recruited right out of college. You kind of get the freedom to choose a space. You choose your space.
Yep.
But, did you have that desire before that recruitment opportunity, or?
Well, I knew at the end of the day that I didn't want to ever put myself in a position where I'd be working for someone for the rest of my life.
Right.
So that was very, very important for me.
So you knew that early on this was going to be a temporary place to learn, understand.
Yes.
Okay.
The idea of being at Deloitte was take as much as I possibly could because I knew, being there, I actually saw that the higher up that you got in that company, the more hours you actually worked. And that to me didn't make sense. So, there was people that I highly respected that were there that were just absolutely brilliant. One of the head partners that we worked with, Glenn Rosenthal, was just absolutely brilliant. And yet the amount of work that Glenn was doing was just, to me, like off the charts. Mm-hmm. So I saw, at least I said to myself, this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. I can't handle 100-hour work weeks. So, busy season, we were doing 60 to 80 hours a week. But Glenn seemed to be doing that, and other people as well on a consistent basis. They may have loved it, but it was not something that I saw myself doing. So, again, I wanted to go into real estate to learn investments so I could figure out a way to become self-sufficient in my life and to be able to afford, the things that I wanted to do during my life.
So talk to us a little bit about the process of transitioning out of that. And when you transitioned out, if I remember from our conversation earlier, you were wanting to kind of go more out on your own to begin with, but you kind of make some steps through that process.
Yeah, so eventually, after getting into my first, multifamily home, I got to a point where I was living there for free. The rent had gone up on the other side. The demand for the marketplace that I had bought in had gone up dramatically. And that just allowed me to be able to say, okay, well, now I can go into another house and live in another home for free. Because if I take the rent that I can now get on this side, and then, because let's say the one side that is rented right now is paying for itself and more, I can now, have multiple units in another place and them pay for that house that I'm in along with this one. So it kind of snowballs. And I guess most people, when it comes to the American dream, they want to have their home, which is fantastic. But in having your primary residence as like your only means, you wind up everything that you're doing is kind of going towards that main payment that you make every single month in that mortgage payment. Yeah. And by getting into small multifamily, initially for me, it enabled me to be able to live for free rather quickly, and then allowing the money that I was making from, let's say, my W-2 income to accumulate much more rapidly because it wasn't being depleted every single month by a mortgage payment.
Yeah. So it's looking at changing your thought process on how you are, with a personal residence, you are investing in something. And,
Yeah.
and the hope is that, and it's historically been this way, that at the end of its story, when you sell the house, it will have appreciated, you will get more money.
Absolutely. And
But you don't have to just invest for 40 years out. You can be investing for what?
yeah, I mean, basically a lifetime in different means.
Yeah.
So, and then the world of real estate investing is so vast, it's incredible. You know, I started out in small multifamily, and I mean, now we're at the point where we're investing in larger multifamily and literally hundreds of units along with other investors. And
Yeah.
because I can't personally afford to go out and buy, 200 plus units out in Phoenix and
Yeah.
spend, 30 something $million. But a bunch of us can gather together, and have
Do
the
a collective.
do a collective on that. Yep. Mm-hmm.
You end up in a kind of unique space, and that's the cloud-based firm.
Yeah, that's years ahead. That's after I got my real estate license.
Okay.
And the reason why I got my license was the fact that no realtor that was out there. I was working with a realtor, but she really didn't understand what it was I was trying to do.
Okay.
Because she wasn't a real estate investor herself.
Right.
And she actually used a term to me which really bothered me. She said she was doing what she was doing as a courtesy was her word to me. And I was like, excuse me?
Yeah.
You're doing me a courtesy? And that really rubbed me the wrong way.
Because in the world of real estate, there's usually residential or commercial, but some of these multi-units don't really fit in either box.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so the small multifamily spaces is probably the most underserved area of real estate
Yeah.
overall. And so, but that was personally what I liked best. So as a real estate agent myself, that's what I specialize in. I think I've probably done more small multifamily home sales over the last decade than like probably any other realtor in northern New Jersey.
Wow.
So outside of like a big team. So, but yeah, as an individual realtor, yeah.
So you end up getting a real estate license and doing the journey of finding a new space that isn't so defined in this process, that multifamily, but not a huge apartment complex.
Yeah, because I mean, the commercial space is a very hard network to break into.
Yeah.
And obviously the amount of transactions that you could do in that space is far, far less. So, people aren't just going to go and trust the sale of like $100 million building, to like this green guy with a, smile and he's all happy about what he's doing.
Yeah.
But, most of the buildings that, that do get sold are sold, I would probably say off market because, there's no MLS for commercial. There's a bunch of different websites now that are trying to kind of accumulating the space like LoopNet and others, but they're not doing a great job of it.
Yeah.
Most of it is just shopped between who you know. And it's kind of like Manhattan real estate.
Yeah.
So
yeah, a market that's not so clear cut.
Yeah, I kind of look at it kind of like De Beers with diamonds, right? They've kind of taken this market and held it back, to create more value. The value of diamonds, I think, would drop if De Beers actually, released everything that they had onto the market at one time. The value of diamond.
Their storehouse would deplete the demand. It would surpass
Absolutely,
it.
Yeah. So they hold off on what they released to increase the value of it, and it's done purposefully. So
maybe they're the world's greatest hoarders, and we just don't know it.
It's interesting what it is that they're doing. So how they've been able to manage that and really own the vertical. God bless them. But I don't invest in diamonds or
no gold in your future.
Yeah, I just real estate's been my thing. So and then I guess the reason for that is because of speculators.
Okay.
And so I don't want to have anyone say one thing and they can say, oh, Darren's property over here is crap, and at the end of the day, it's not because it's still making X. So, and that's the way it's going to be valued.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about the process of you find your space in the real estate market. Mm-hmm. You're creating a new space to help really serve an underserved space or a misunderstood space. And now you're building out a bigger team.
Yeah, well, again, when it comes to the brokerage model, is a totally different animal. Typically brokerage that we know of is a brick and mortar location, and then most of them are like the franchise, like a Coldwell Banker, Century 21, Keller Williams, whatever namesake may be. And at the end of the day, my personal opinion is that you're actually building someone else's business.
Right.
And all you really are as a real estate agent, although they sell you on the idea, or the idea is for you to go into business for yourself, and you're out there marketing yourself, at the end of the day, you're not actually building any equity that can be sold, because if you stop selling, your checks stop coming in.
Yeah.
So, but the brokerage model is that, if I bring in enough agents and they're out making sales, regardless if I walk away for 6 months, the agents are still out there like me making sales, and I'm still making money.
And you're skimming off the top of their
Right,
profits.
Exactly. And that's why you have a split with your broker, because technically as a salesperson, you can't do the transaction yourself. Only your broker can.
Right.
So they're making a cut, and there's a lot of people that are out there that are paying a lot of money in a commission split. It could be 50%, just to have, let's say, a brand name, because they think for some reason, we call it brand prison, that they think that brand actually leads to their sales, and it doesn't.
Yeah. But you were happy being in a firm like that, right?
Well, initially I was happy. Well, I didn't have a choice, and
Okay.
it's because I didn't know.
Okay.
So
ignorance is not bliss.
No, it isn't. But because I guess at the end of the day, the historical model of being an agent, being a successful agent, is that you come in, you learn how to drive leads, right, and drive your business, and you create a business, and that business self-perpetuates, and then you wind up driving too many leads where you can't service all your customers. So then you create a real estate team. And then with your real estate team, then you have buyer's agents, you have listing agents, but obviously you're having a split with them as well. And as a team leader, you also then have a split with the brokerage as well. So your margins are going down.
Yeah.
So then you realize that, oh my God, I'm paying so much money now to my broker that I might as well go independent and start my own brokerage so that I'm not paying them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been the historical model.
Yeah.
But then the model got into the franchise-based systems where me as a team, I would literally then go try to get a franchise, operate everything underneath that big brand name, which will then allow me to attract more agents again so I can make more money.
Yeah.
But things have changed. Glenn Sanford, the founder of eXp Realty, decided after the last crash that he said, how could we create a brokerage that could survive a crash? Because a lot of people had a lot of hard times.
Yeah.
So, and he decided that to create literally the world's first cloud-based brokerage, because at the end of the day, I was at Keller Williams for 8 years. I almost never went into the office.
Yeah.
The only reason why I went there was for them to give me my checks. So, and then someone actually posed a question to me. He's like, well, why are you paying them so much money to cash your checks?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a really, really good point. So it was actually a friend of mine who came out to do a real estate meetup that we do in New York City. And he was the one who posed me, like, afterwards we're drinking. And he said that he felt that the entire brokerage industry was moving to the cloud. And so he kind of put the idea in my head, and that started me investigating cloud-based brokerages, and that's how I found eXp. So,
Okay. All right.
And it's literally been a game changer.
It's pretty crazy. We're going to talk a little bit more about what that is in the second segment. As we wrap up this first segment, we always finish with these 3 questions. The first one is, how do you find purpose in what you do?
I would probably say in what I do, especially when it comes to my clients, I always sit down and, because I screen the people that I work with before I'll take them on as a client, I have to really believe in what it is that they are trying to do with their life. And that's what will drive me, because at the end of the day, I don't need to go out and make a sale in real estate to survive, because of my real estate investments. I'm fortunate in that way. So that's where I find my purpose, and obviously, outside of me going to church and that aspect of my life. So, I'm a trustee at my church, and grateful for everything that brings in my life.
What is one challenge you're currently working to overcome?
I would probably say most importantly is getting the right systems in place for every single aspect of my business. So that has been after I read the E-Myth Revisited and said to myself, oh my God, did he write this book for me? So everything I do now is thought up as a way of a process that I can replace myself.
Yeah.
So I can actually take myself out of the business. So that's probably the biggest thing that we work on a consistent basis.
What's the next big dream, idea, or goal you have?
That's a good one. And that's a tough one because at the end of the day, it goes beyond, money.
Mm.
So I think it's trying to impact as many people in my life as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Because, someone, I don't know who it was, who said, the type of person that you are in your life, you can tell how well you're liked and loved by the amount of people that, of course, you can't tell, but that show up at your funeral, right? And I remember my friend Ken's father, Jerry, when he passed away, I've never seen as many people show up to someone's funeral in my life. There literally was a line that was more than an hour long. Yeah, outside.
That's crazy.
I've never seen that in my life. And just so to understand the impact that he had upon other people's lives is just priceless.
Yeah.
So I can only do what I possibly can to emulate something like that.
We're going to take a break right here. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation with Darren Sager. Chasing big ideas and dreams is hard to do. It's even harder when you try to do it alone. But where do you find a community, a tribe, a group of people who have big ideas and dreams just like you? Here at JumbleThink, we wanted to help, and that's why we created the JumbleThink Facebook group. It's a place where dreamers and idea makers can get together, where we can share our obstacles, our questions, our fears, where we can celebrate together, where we can wrestle through the challenges we're facing together. And I would love to have you join us in that community. It's easy to join. All you have to do is head on over to jumblethink.com/group. It'll take you right to the Facebook group, and it's completely free to join. So I look forward to having you join the community and chasing those dreams and ideas together with us. Now let's return to today's conversation. We are back with Darren Sager to talk more about real estate and much, much more. Before we dive into that, though, I know there's some people listening that are like, this sounds really interesting. I want to learn more about cloud-based brokerages. I want to learn more about investing in my first property that's outside my house or some such thing. How can they find and connect with you?
Let's see. Well, my email is reiagentnyc, which basically means real estate investing agent in New York City at gmail.com.
Okay.
That or they can hit me up directly. They can find me at darrensager.exprealty.careers. Or you can also do a Google search and do Darren Sager Bigger Pockets, and my profile will pop up there as well. So there's 3 ways for you to get a hold of me.
Super cool. And we'll have those links in the episode notes to make it super easy for you. So wherever you're listening, they're there. Just check them out
Awesome.
and click on them. You mentioned your email address and you said NYC. Tell people where you serve. Like, what are the places that you help people with the investments that they're doing, and what's kind of like your geographic reach?
We basically work the northern New Jersey market outside of New York City.
Okay.
But we've been doing a meetup in New York City for quite some time. So, and now with EXP, I'm considering very strongly getting my New York license because EXP is not a franchise system. So even with me adding a license in another state, it basically wouldn't cost me anything more to do so other than the license itself. I don't have to pay additional fees or anything else like that to the company.
So it's basically a one fee to use their platform, and that's it.
Correct.
Wow.
Yes. Whereas most companies, you would have to join another office, pay an additional fee, pay additional franchise fees, pay another cap. And that's the way it was with me with Keller. I was going to get my license, and they wanted to charge me another $65,000 in a cap to join the Manhattan office. And I was just like, like $100,000 between these 2 offices. That's a tremendous amount of money. With EXP, it's only $16,000. I can have my license in as many states as I want.
Wow.
So
that's pretty powerful. It gives you a lot more freedom to really expand and do what you want to do and not be constricted by playing by somebody else's game.
Right, because you're not constricted by the antiquated, bloated leases that are, so much money that you have to, basically have all these physical spaces. But it doesn't necessarily mean, most people think, oh, you're cloud-based, so that means you don't have an office. Well, I have actually over 2,000 offices I can go to around the world because EXP literally gives us a corporate membership to every single Regus location.
Oh.
So just like, we're here in Hive that you can come in here for like $150. Well, part of EXP Realty, I get access to every single Regus locations, and it's the same thing. Go in there, use the corporate space, Wi-Fi, the whole 9 yards. It's fantastic.
Wow, so there's a lot of amenities to what you're doing.
Oh, without a doubt. Most people aren't aware of it.
Yeah. I want to step back here and talk a little bit about the everyday investor.
Sure.
I know that whether it's HGTV or DIY or one of those network shows.
Makes it look so easy.
Yeah, it makes it look easy, but also on top of that, it stokes the fires of desire for so many people to go, I could do that. What do people need to know when they're looking at their first possible investment outside of their own personal house?
I would probably say when it comes to, there's two primary ways that most people invest, and it's either a buy and hold investment or they're by the TV shows wanting to flip a house.
Yeah.
The aspect of flipping a house, I think, it is a lot harder than most people think because you really need the right systems in place and right contractors in place ahead of time, or you're just going to absolutely fail. Your holding costs will get out of control unless you're basically coming up with all the capital to do everything yourself, and most people can't afford to do that. So they're using something like hard money, where you're paying a higher interest rate than you would a traditional mortgage, and points on top of that for the short-term loan. But that allows them to do it. But the flipping aspect of the business, it's nice, looks great on all the shows. But it's a lot riskier than people think.
And there's a lot probably to the stories that are being shown on some of those shows that isn't quite the reality there.
Oh, without a doubt, yes. They say it's not scripted, but we'll just realize that there are other things going on that make it look wonderful.
Well, I know one of the tricks that they use is that the person who ends up buying the house after they do the remodel already had bought the house before they started the remodel. It's
kind of like, House Hunters. I heard that, they who really just goes and looks at 3 houses and then chooses one. From what I understand, it's like they already bought the house. And
they're going to friends and family to use their house as stage.
Exactly. So they've already had the house like basically bought, and they're going to 2 other ones. And like, oh, we're going to take this one. Yep. So...
Such a hard decision.
Exactly.
Which one do we own?
Oh, I don't know what to get. I like that one best too. Yeah, that's great. So, but buy and hold investing has always been my primary thing about what I started doing, and the idea behind buy and hold investing, what makes it so appealing, is really leverage, right? Because you can leverage someone else's money to buy someone else's property.
Yeah.
And then if you're using it as a rental, you're then using someone else's money to pay back the money that you've borrowed from somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's the way that you're building wealth over time. Obviously, there is some risk involved because you're putting your neck on the line for that mortgage note.
Yeah.
But, I always think that there's good debt and there's bad debt. Bad debt's credit card debt, right? Because it's revolving debt. It just never ends. But debt that you have that's being paid for by someone else, I'll disagree with Dave Ramsey. I think it's very good to have debt that's paid for by somebody else.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So there's a lot of moving parts in building investment properties.
Sure.
It's easy to get into something and quickly become upside down in it if you don't know what you're doing. So how can somebody really become an educated investor so that they're making sure, okay, my numbers make sense and this is all going to work? Because most of us who watch those shows, if we were to try to do it, we would not know where to even start, and we'd make a lot of guesses.
Sure.
And probably get buried by that.
I would say that there's a lot of books that you can go out and read, definitely. I think that there's a lot of ways that you can be taken advantage of in the industry and trying to learn the industry by coaching programs and everything else like that. At the end of the day, everything that you...
Some of those are in a little bit of hot water right now. I think some of the HGTV stars are like, oh, we should not probably have licensed our name to this company.
Yeah. So I think you can find out really the information that you need for free online. And it's kind of like gold digging. Obviously, you're going to go through a lot of dirt to find the gems that are out there. But, great examples of where you can go is like BiggerPockets.com. The amount of information that's there is phenomenal. And the education that they have there is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much free.
Yeah.
So, to take advantage of other aspects of calculators and other things, you'll have to pay to become a member in that aspect. But they have most of their free membership is just absolutely priceless.
Wow.
So, and again, there's tons of great books that are out there too. So you do have to kind of self-educate yourself when it comes to real estate investing. But at the end of the day, nothing beats pure experience. And getting out and do there. I think the biggest problem that most people have is they get overextended really, really quick.
Yeah.
Because they're looking at things and they think they could do a lot more than they can do before they actually have the right systems in place. So that's when they get themselves into trouble.
You're saying the right systems there. What are the kind of systems that people are going to have in place once they actually buy it? Isn't it as simple as like I bought a house, I've got to bill the tenant more than I'm paying and have a little bit of extra money for repairs and stuff. What other kind of systems need to be in place?
Well, you need systems in place for when things go wrong so you can respond to them.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, your tenants are your clients and you want them to have a good experience. So you need to make sure that you have a plumber on hand, an electrician, whatever the heck it is, who's going to cut the grass, all those things ahead of time. Otherwise, you're going to be basically reacting to everything, and that's not the type of business you want to be in.
Yeah.
You want to be proactive.
Yeah.
And by having those systems in place ahead of time, it will allow you to then scale your business.
Yeah.
So it's like, how are you going about collecting your rents? Are you going around physically collecting them, knocking on doors? Well, then, if that's what your system, that's great. But now there's other systems you can use like Cozy.co or other things where you can have, free sites that'll go and collect your rent for you. It's free for your tenant to use, free for you to use. So there's a lot of different things that you can do to put the right systems in place to make your life easier. Or you can pay someone to do it through property management, but that usually takes a big hit off your top line. So.
Yeah, they want to get a lot of money out of managing somebody's property if they're doing it.
Yep, for sure. And that's their business. So
yeah.
Primarily on the smaller stuff that we have, I manage it myself. On the larger stuff that we have, like on the big stuff in Phoenix, obviously we have property management that takes care of that because there's literally hundreds of units and you just can't get involved in stuff.
Just a completely different ballpark at
Absolutely.
that point.
Yep.
If somebody's wanting to do this and they're not sure that they can invest as much as what would be required to do a multifamily unit or something like that. Are there other ways for them to invest?
Yeah, I mean, they could go and invest in another area of the country that is more cost effective.
Okay.
David Green has a good book about how to invest in real estate in out of state markets.
Okay.
Which is good. And Bigger Pockets puts out that book. And they also could go and participate in syndications if they're more sophisticated investor like myself. Which is fantastic. The returns on those investments, and they're not dealing with any tenants, could be definitely double-digit returns on their money, better than you could do, and it also comes with certain tax benefits as well, which is amazing.
I know that you're a part of this pioneering of the cloud-based.
I'm
firm.
literally, I didn't create it.
No, I didn't create it, but
yes.
you're a part of
Yes.
like really the ground level of this.
I was one of the, I think I was the 47th agent in New Jersey for eXp Realty, and now we have over 800.
Wow.
So, and that's just over about a 2-year time period.
That's crazy.
So eXp Realty has had the highest level of growth versus any other real estate company in history.
Yeah.
So growing at like greater than 200% agent count per year. It's primarily because the agents get ownership of the company.
Yeah.
So, which is, again...
And they're paying for a platform.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tool.
Yeah. If we have let's say we have a realtor listening, what would you tell them about it?
What I tell them about it? Probably hands down the best business decision that I made with my real estate license.
Okay.
And, there's a lot of people out there that, again, you may be in brand prison that they have you thinking that everything about their business is about the brand that you're associated with. It's not. It's really up to you to do a good job. And regardless of where you are, if you're not owning what it is that you do in some way, shape, or form, and you're building equity, all you are is a renter there. Long term. So, you could work, and like I was at 8 years at Keller Williams.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And when I left, how much equity did I have?
None.
Zero.
Yeah.
Right? Did they even shake my hand on the way out? No, they didn't. So, and yet, when I was there, I paid them over $200,000 in commission splits during that time period.
So how did, I know people that work at a Keller Williams office.
And Keller's a great company, don't get me wrong.
So how does it work when, there's multiple agents is there, a head agent, or is there, a director of that?
Of that particular brokerage?
Yeah.
Generally, you have the broker owner, and in most cases, they will hire a team leader.
Okay.
Basically oversees the agents and works on recruiting for the
So they're
office.
making the money, and then Keller Williams is making money on top of that, too?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes.
All right. So an individual like you could own a regional Keller Williams office, but that would be logistically a nightmare? Or?
Well, obviously, there's a cost associated with doing that. There's a franchise fee. There's, you have to have a certain amount of capital to open up that office. They have requirements as to how much space that you have to be able to provide to your agents. And all those things actually cost money, every single month. So, that was the idea behind the cloud-based brokerage was, why do you necessarily need all these things?
Yeah.
Because, we access the MLS online.
Yeah.
We can meet our clients anywhere that we want. So why do we have to get hung up with the cost of every single office having someone in accounting to process checks? So EXP went and centralized everything into one place so we can go. There's over 500 people that are employed by EXP Realty in the cloud. So I can go into our cloud office and literally go into any department I want. Literally walk around an office, kind of like it's a virtual world, almost like, I don't know if you've ever played a video game like Grand Theft Auto or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it's an avatar-based system where we actually can walk around the office and go into an auditorium, just like we're at a university. There's there could be more than 10 classes a day of live training going on at any time. And because it's all centralized, it's accessible to everyone throughout the entire company, which is fantastic.
Yeah, a virtual office.
Right, and it keeps costs down dramatically by doing that. So it's just been wonderful for me. I can't complain.
Super cool. We're going to pause right here, and when we come back, it's rapid fire questions.
Ooh.
Over the last couple weeks here at Jumblethink, we've been fortunate to have some of our dream guests appear on the show. And I want to point out two of those conversations. Earlier this week, we talked to Dario Satui. He is the founder and creator of Via Satui Winery and also the founder of Castello di Amorosa, which is not only an amazing winery, but a historically accurate 13th century Tuscan castle right in Napa Valley. His story is not only amazing if you love wine and if you love building your own castle, but his story is also really fascinating because it gives us real-world tips on how you can take crazy big ideas and make them into reality. You got to go check that episode out. We also sat down with Jim Cummings. Now, you might not recognize the name, but I can guarantee you know his voice. Jim has voiced some of the most beloved characters in animation, including Winnie the Pooh, Tigger, and a whole bunch of other people, a whole bunch of other characters you would know. If you missed either of those episodes, you need to go check them out. Their stories will inspire you on the journey of chasing your own big ideas and dreams, too. Where can you check them out? Well, wherever you listen to podcasts, but to make it even easier, if you head on over to jumblethink.com, you can find links to all the places you can listen to those shows and over 330 other episodes. Now let's jump into rapid fire questions with today's guest, Darren Seger.
Mettre l'aiguille sur le disque. Mettez le contact, reposez votre bras et attendez. Restez calme pendant un moment.
We are back with Darren, and it's rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready as I can be.
We're going to give you the hard one first.
Oh, what's the hard one?
As a child,
Yes.
what did you want to be when you grew up?
Interesting. I think I wanted to be a fireman.
Nice. Nothing wrong with that?
No, nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah.
It's basically to serve. Yeah, absolutely.
What is one tip you give someone with a big idea or dream and they don't know where to start?
Write it down and write down all the ways that you possibly could start. I think the biggest issue is, I've come up with a lot of ideas, and you're right, you're absolutely overwhelmed. So where do you begin? I've also found that keeping it to yourself is not a good thing. At the end of the day, there are good people out in the world. There are also bad people out in the world. And unfortunately, you are going to have to create trust with people. And because you can't do things like, especially big ideas, you can't do them by yourself.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Yeah. What is one change you'd like to see in the world?
One change I would love to see in the world. Again, big proponent of my electric car.
We were talking about that earlier.
Yes. So I would love to see the end of gasoline vehicles. Despite the fact that I loved the smell of gasoline growing up when I was a kid, just from an environmental impact, I think that, I think it would be absolutely wonderful to see that in my lifetime.
What do you want your legacy to be?
That's a great question. And it's like, I think it's going to be how many people I can have an impact in a positive way, in some way, shape, or form. That to me is more important than any amount of money. I learned at an early point in my life the type of person that you become in your life all depends upon the books that you read and the people you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
So I hope at some point I've impacted a bunch of people, telling them great books to read, and had wonderful conversations with them and become great friends with them. But I do basically choose my friends very wisely.
Where do you find inspiration?
I find inspiration in places where there is no noise, if that makes sense.
Places of solitude.
Yes, because it allows me to actually think more clearly.
Yeah. I bet you could get a lot of solitude on the beaches of Jersey today.
So, probably today. So, yeah, it's interesting. So, if you ask me where would I want a vacation, it's always going to be in some beach somewhere.
Yeah.
And my ideal thing is always to sit on a beach and read a book.
Ah.
So that is probably, if you ask my idea of my favorite vacation, that is it. Because of the fact that I can open up my mind, get new ideas without all the... everything hitting you from 1,000 different directions.
Yeah.
We both have iWatches on, I believe, right? So it's like things go on, and you're now even your arm is clicking to tell you things happening in your life. Yeah. So, but yes, getting away from it all, and getting some perspective on life is fantastic.
What is one book you think every dreamer should read?
I would probably say, after reading it and being inspired by it, definitely the E-Myth Revisited, but T. Harv Ekert's book on mindset is, I think it's called Millionaire Mindset, is an amazing book. So, at the end of the day, I think what stops us more so than anything else is what's going on in between our two ears. We are our own biggest enemies. So unless you're thinking the right way and you have the right mindset, chances are you're not going to achieve what it is that you want to. Get your mind right.
Yeah. For you, how do you define success?
I guess there's a lot of different ways to define it, but I would probably say it's being around good people that appreciate you being there too.
Yeah, that's good. What is one trend you're currently excited about?
I am excited about the aspect of what's going on with electric vehicles, and literally... hearing companies like Mercedes-Benz saying that they're no longer going to be developing gasoline or any type of fuel-based engines. Wow. So I think that there's wonderful aspects in that. I think it's going to affect a lot of people's health long terms. So, I look forward to breathing a hell of a lot easier, especially after growing up in the 70s and being around all the polluted cars. So, I'm excited about that for sure.
What is one habit that you find helpful in your life?
Getting up for me, going to bed every night with a clear conscience that allows me to actually sleep at night.
That's good.
And I'm very, very fortunate being in the financial position where I am that, as I like to say, I go to bed every night the way most people go to bed on a Friday or Saturday night, with not having that, having to get to work the next day mentality. And because of that, they're thinking about it. It affects their sleep. So... again, getting your mind right in that respect and being able to sleep every night, that's been one of the best things. And it's probably why I don't look my age at this point. So,
what is one thing you wish you would have known when you first started out?
Well, I think I said before, choose your friends wisely.
Yeah. That's a good one.
So, but really, again, getting your mindset is probably the most important thing in anyone's life.
Yeah. If you weren't doing what you're doing today, what do you think you'd be doing?
I probably, again, if I could have been a fireman, I definitely would have done it.
And our final rapid fire question. What is one dream you're still wanting to fulfill in your own life?
That is a good one. I think one dream would probably be, I've always wanted to own a property on the beach in Hawaii.
Nice.
So that is, and not just for myself, but to be able to utilize it to be around people that I would love and want to be around. So I'd probably say that's it.
So we wrap up today's episode. We always like to ask our guests to have a final thought. So what's your final thought for us today?
Another great question. I would probably say again, most things in your life, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. So everything has to do with what you believe in yourself, regardless of what the situation is.
Yeah, super cool. Darren, thanks so much for taking time out, being here at PodMax, and being on the show with us today.
Absolutely, Michael. Thank you. I'm honored to have been a part of it with you today.
Once again, we want to thank Darren for taking time out and being on the show today. You can check out his book recommendation and his links in the episode notes. We also want to thank our friends over at PodMax for hosting today's conversation. This was recorded before all the lockdowns and stay-at-home orders, so don't worry, we're all safe. But you can connect on the next PodMax virtually by checking out podmax.co. Now, here's my final thought for you today. You don't always have to accept the status quo. Just like Darren didn't accept the status quo of how brokerages work, you can find alternative solutions or invent your own path. And sometimes that can be the best path forward. So rethink everything. Take some chances and reinvent or invent your own way forward. I want to thank you for tuning into today's show. I hope it's encouraged you on the journey of chasing your dreams, or maybe informed you if you want to get into the world of real estate investment. Ultimately, our heart here is to encourage you to chase those dreams, to go after those ideas that you have. We believe you're created for something awesome and that your dreams matter. So get out there, dream big, and change the world around you.
Étirez-vous doucement, mais complètement. En avant, en arrière, sur les côtés. Vous êtes une autre personne. Les mères de famille, les enfants, peuvent également prendre un moment revitalisant. Dans quelques mois, lorsque vous aurez bien saisi la technique et que vous serez maître de votre corps, vous pourrez vous décontracter même en travaillant.